had to pay to get into various venues. You know, like get $8-10 to go in, and I never had cash. I never carry cash anymore.
Who does?
Do. And they always only take.
I bet
cash.
this guy's always got some cash.
He's always
on
got a big.
Yeah. He's an old school guy.
Nut, like a big nut of hundreds. He's got in there. You've seen people have that. They got to throw it on the table.
Yeah. Do you have a wad? See?
Knew it.
Look at it.
Look
at it. Man, that's heavy. Look at that. He's even got a receipt. What do you have? A receipt in here? He's even got a receipt.
Look at those.
Look from the last golf.
Look
the
at
last
all the
golf outing. He's got a golf receipt.
Benny's in there.
Love
He's out
that.
there living his best life. So anyway, I go steal their money.
This goes to someone else in my house.
Redistribute.
That's what he's saying. That's what he's saying right now.
So anyway, it came time last night with the draft where I ran a little game on the boys.
Oh.
So I would say, I bet you $5 Trayvon Walker's going number 1. No way, Dad. It's going to be Aiden Hutchinson. No. Okay. $5. Boom, boom.
Was this
Pick
also
2.
just based off of your genius or the fact that picks are being tipped well in advance on the Twitter machine?
Costco.
Yes, Costco.
So,
that's code words. It's great.
Costco's
incredible.
Crushing it. So nailed it. Double or nothing. Aiden Hutchinson. No way.
You just thought he was going to go 1. Right. What are you saying? No way at 2 for?
Number 3.
Stingley. Yeah. Now they're like.
No chance, dude. It's going to be a lineman. So I nail all 3. Beamsy, a.k.a. Kingsley, is finally – he's picking
wise.
Up, but he's not picking up to what I'm doing, but he knows that
something's
he's out of it.
Yeah.
So now he's in – he's now $40 in the level now because I owed him 40. Black Cobra was now $10 on the positive, but so confident that I'm going to run out of speed with this.
Never.
Going to run out of steam. Not going to run out of steam at all. In fact, was going to power through.
Yeah. Fueled
by pilot fuel.
Yes,
through.
You were.
I really was. And so just kept nailing them. It got to the point where the kid owes me like $120.
It's great.
By the time he went to bed,
it was like Trevor Price at the gambling table. He
Dude, how you
double
doing?
or nothing
how
again.
do you know so much? Don't you worry about it.
How do you see the future, Dad? I just
do. Awesome. It was awesome. And I didn't think I would be into it.
It was
but
great.
The reality is I did not turn the channel. I turned it on and I was hooked the whole way, all the way through the first round.
I mean, you had one stretch where like 5 out of, first of all, I think 6 out of 7 picks were receivers.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of that, you had trades happening, I think, on 6 of those picks. Then you've got the Hollywood Brown to Arizona, where you're like, that feels like a pretty good deal for the Baltimore Ravens.
Sure does. Also, in juxtaposed to what Philly,
because that came later,
right?
And you're like,
wow, if you're Arizona, maybe make that call.
By the way, Philly still has a ton of picks.
Yeah,
they still have 2 next year.
Yeah,
they could still give up 3 1s for a guy who tweeted out WTF after they traded Hollywood Brown.
Which, by the way, doesn't make sense because Hollywood Brown said today that Lamar knew that he demanded a trade 3 months ago.
Yeah, but I mean, Lamar thought he'd say, well, why would you? You don't have to trade him. He's under contract.
Crazy. Yes, crazy. The idea that Philly gave up 18 and a third for A.J. Brown.
Yep.
And the Cardinals gave up 23 for Hollywood Brown. And we give up
a third, right? Didn't they?
No, just the one, the 23rd.
There was a third involved in that deal.
In the A.J. Brown, but not the Marquise, unless it was a pick swap.
I think maybe they may have even sent a third back to the Ravens.
Okay.
Hold on a second.
And then to finish the point.
Yes, but
Amari for a 5th.
Yeah, right.
Like, these things are not equal. And if you're Arizona, you got to be thinking, my God, we could have had A.J. Brown for that.
That's exactly what went to my mind. So the Ravens traded the number. Okay, they got the Cardinals got pick 100 and Hollywood Brown for the 23rd pick. So they got Hollywood Brown and a third.
And a third for that, yeah.
Still. 5th Cooper.
And also what Philly gave up to get A.J. Brown. But and by the way, also like the Lions didn't give up a whole lot to move up 20 spots. They didn't.
The Vikings didn't receive a lot in that, which shocked me.
Right.
Our guy Kwesi. Now I think that the Vikings were hot on the trail of Derek Stingley Jr., and as you told the boys, he's going 3rd.
Yeah.
He did. That was not expected, by the way.
No, but it also goes back to that conversation we were having about how we can identify these guys younger, faster, better, earlier. And Stingley was 5-star kid coming out. There were 8 5-star high school recruits drafted in the first round last night and 20 4- and 5-star players. For perspective, there's only usually about 35-star athletes in each class. The fact that 8 of them were picked in the first round tells you how good we are at identifying talent.
That's incredibly good, and it's also Georgia must be pretty good at identifying talent. 5 defensive players from Georgia were drafted in the first round. Is that right?
That's how you win a national championship with a walk-on quarterback.
And that's more than I think the Big 12. Then the Big 12 had players drafted, period, yesterday.
Big 12 had none in the first round.
None. Pac-12, right? Had, I think.
The kid from USC, Thibodeau. They had a couple.
I think they had 4.
Yeah.
Because they had a kid from Washington as well.
Yeah.
Georgia.
That's
right. 5.
They had like 23 5-star players on their team.
It's amazing.
Yeah. This isn't hard. I mean, it's not as hard as it used to be. It's actually gotten very good. There's so many crazy there were, 9 trades yesterday in the first round. First 5 picks, all defensive players.
Yep.
The latest a quarterback has been drafted since 1997. Your San Francisco 49ers picked at pick 26 in 1997.
1997. Man. Don't say like Druckenmiller.
Bingo!
Oh, God, he was terrible.
Jim Druckenmiller, the latest a quarterback.
Listen, I was in
drafted.
college then, so I wasn't technically still
Yeah.
there, and I had Joe was gone, so I'd moved off. I was fully in Jeff George world. Druckenmiller.
That's the latest.
Wow.
Pickett yesterday was the latest a quarterback had gone since then.
Also the first to ever be picked at number 20, ever.
That's wild.
Never been a quarterback picked 20th.
Yeah. How about all 3 receivers developed at Ohio State went
Back.
10, 11, 12?
To back.
And if Jameson Williams doesn't blow out his knee, he clearly goes first.
That's what I think.
And he was the 3rd receiver at Ohio State.
That's what I think.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
From our perspective, I think things actually fell pretty well if you're the Cleveland Browns. I mean, I thought the Ravens had a good draft. I really like, and you probably know more about him than I do, but just from talking to a lot of people who watch every single Michigan game, they really think that Dax Hill, as the safety,
Yeah, the kid the Bengals
is
got.
like a honey badger, like is good.
I don't know. To me, he's not on that level. I could see how people who watch Michigan all the time and view it through maize and gold-colored glasses would maybe think that. I think he's kind of insurance for Jesse Bates. Like, now if Bates can't get a long-term deal sorted out, now they got a guy ready for that. And he's a nice player.
I think
he's a
he
nice
can play
player,
some slot.
But Honey Badger was like a Heisman finalist guy. Like, he's not on that level.
Sure.
But he's a really nice player. Yeah, there's a lot of versatility to him. Unfortunately, I think the Ravens crushed it. I think they crushed it.
They wanted, supposedly, the kid from Georgia who got taken right before them.
The big D tackle?
At 13, Jordan Davis.
Davis.
But I think
But they still pivot and they get Kyle
Hamilton,
who's a dude, and then they get Linderbaum at center, who's going to be a 12-year starter.
I personally, this is just me talking, I would like to try to find that guy, a 12-year starter at center, elsewhere in the draft.
Fair.
But
Fair.
I think he's going to be very good. Hamilton, we were sitting here doing the show last night, and I was just like, the Ravens are taking him. I was not doing what you were doing. I said, who do I not want them to take the most that's on the board right now? And it was Hamilton, because I think he's a stud. Like, I think he could have gone in the top 5 easy.
Agree.
And he ran slow at the 4. Like, have you watched him play?
Yeah. He's fine.
And then, of course, they took
Just
Hamilton.
like with Patrick Queen, remember that?
Yeah, I said that. Now, that one didn't work out, so maybe this one will work out.
Yeah.
But, yes, that felt you could just feel it coming from a mile away.
Some crazy things, like the idea that the Packers didn't get a receiver, the idea that the Chiefs did not get a receiver. Are they allergic to receivers?
Nobody else thought that it was as crazy as I did. I thought it was completely nuts and that Aaron Rodgers is going to be pouting and be totally unhappy.
Of course he is. I know he wasn't. I saw him on McAfee, and he wasn't. But it was like, of course he is.
He can't be happy about that.
I mean,
I thought that was pretty stunning.
Feels negligent, like you just don't draft receiver ever.
Yeah. Also, I think we got one of the greatest moments ever last night, which was the live reaction of Les Snead and clearly having a good time Sean McVay to the pick of Cole Strange.
How many cocktails is McVay in?
5.
And he's
tequilas. Easy.
Hasn't stopped since the Super Bowl.
And listen,
Because
when
I feel like he's
to the
been
victor
on
goes
rolling
the
since
spoils. To the victor goes the spoils. They can beat Jesse, but
openly.
First of all, what were they doing having a press conference? They don't have a pick till the third round.
No idea. Why were they?
But
there?
they have now produced the 2 greatest videos of this NFL start to this season. The one about how they were going to steal the draft, which was basically a movie.
Yeah.
starring people of some great actors. And then they have this, where it's like, we thought we were going to get him at like 105. Ha ha! Ho ho!
Yucking it up.
Just yucking it up. Cole Strange, they're like from Chattanooga.
Both of them are having a good time.
Oh my God! Well,
Yeah.
when you're the champ, it's good.
I guess.
It's good to be the king.
Absolutely incredible. Be sure to catch all the action of day 2 of the 2022 draft tonight starting at 7. The Browns Draft Show presented by Bud Light. Ken and Z, Jim Donovan, Joe Thomas along the way. Interviews with the picks on the University Hospital's Cleveland Browns radio network. Speaking of kings, I think he's the most important media athlete icon in the history of this city. He joins us coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns
Couldn't
Daily
have said any better myself.
on 850 ESPN Cleveland. OBM, Ohio Business Machine, preferred copier provider of your Cleveland Browns. They have all the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. With that, we head out on the hotline for a man who I have long described as the most influential, important athlete in the history of this city.
Where's his music?
That's a great question. Do we have his music? I mean,
I'm sure we do.
Here's what I would
know
say.
we do.
Here's what I would say, though.
Nick, I believe that.
Look, we've already blown
when
it.
He's
We
coming
blew
up.
it. We blew it. You don't want to do this. This is disrespectful to who this man
Just
is.
bring him out. He's coming outside
coming
like
out
a true
silently.
superstar with just a spotlight on him.
Miz, here's the question, though. Now that Zegura is in the booth, you and him show up. There's one table left in downtown Cleveland, finest steakhouse. who gets the table? You, the most important athlete in the history of the city, or the new color man of the Cleveland Browns?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say that was the worst introduction I've ever had on Cleveland Browns Daily. That was pathetic. It was terrible, and I expect better, especially from the new commentator of the Cleveland Browns, the voice, if you will. I mean, the voice is gold. This guy has a golden microphone. He's got a golden brain. And honestly, the games are never going to sound better this season because Nathan Zegura is in the booth, baby. And it is absolutely awesome. But if you ask me if I'm going into town hall, who's getting the table? This guy. This guy.
Listen, I'll be like a rope off the Goodyear blimp. I've got no problem with that. I'll tag right on along, just hanging out with you. Yes, I apologize for that.
I mean,
Your
no
music will be.
My God,
Yes. The guy, not only is he, as you pointed out, rightfully so, the most important athlete, actor, personality in the history of our fine city. You could go. The list could go on and on. Not fantasy football champion. That's the one thing that eludes him. However, maybe someday.
Coming from a show, by the way, this is coming from a show that literally just had Mainstream Sellout promoting with MGK's new CD. So I appreciate that. I heard the commercials.
Oh. There it is. Yeah, listen to him.
There you go.
Big star. And then he's going to now be the person who announces the Cleveland Browns draft pick today. By the way.
Wait a second.
Yes. How excited are you for that? Yes, he's in Vegas to announce our draft pick.
Holy
right now, I am on the 101, taking it to Burbank Airport, going to fly into Vegas tonight. And literally, I am excited. I mean, this is like a childhood dream. I mean, growing up, rooting for Webster Slaughter and Eric Metcalf and Bernie Kosar. And now, looking at this team that we have, people are like, well, who do you want to draft? And in my head, I'm going, honestly, I think we just need time to build chemistry. We have all the pieces that we could possibly need and then some. And by the way, free agency is happening. People are going to be coming left and right. People want to play for the Cleveland Browns. They want to be a part of the dog pound.
I don't think that here's the thing now that I have this information that you're making the selection.
Yes.
I'm thinking of all the celebrities that have made these selections. No one has your panache. No one has your charisma. The bar here is high, Miz. It's high. Do you know what you Of course you're prepared.
He's working on it.
You worked on it. I mean, I got incredibly high expectations for you tonight. I feel you're going to live up to them, but the bar's high.
I have high expectations for myself as well. Honestly, like I've been, ever since I found out I was going to do a draft pick, it was like I called Nathan. I go, I got to figure out something to say.
Yes,
like, it's got to be memorable. It's got to be something that pumps up the Cleveland Browns. It's got to be pumping up Cleveland. I mean, we're in Las Vegas, like. So
I almost wish this draft was in Pittsburgh because if it was in Pittsburgh, you would have been able to come out and kill wasn't it Drew Pearson who did one in Philly and just absolutely killed the Eagles? Like you would be able to go there and crush them and talk about Kenny Pickett's small hands and it would have been a real delight. Maybe you worked that in anyway. Who knows? I don't know.
All day I could, but the problem is I'm in Vegas, so I'm like, all right, it's the Raiders. I mean, they're in a terrible division for them because, honestly, every team is amazing. But we don't really have any beef with the Raiders. We don't really have anything with the Raiders. Like, I can't think of anything that we've done with the Raiders that I can literally get the crowd so riled up. So what I think I'm going to do is go the other way. Just build up Cleveland.
Love it.
I like it.
That's going to work. That's going to play well. I mean, especially, and it'll help for those people who, because I'll tell you what, I go around town sometimes and people, they know that we know each other and are friends. And there were some people that were hurt a little bit by your words at Monday Night Raw it just really made them sad to hear you say some of those things. And so here's an opportunity on a national stage.
Nathan, what I said on Raw was Cleveland will never get a WrestleMania. And
that's right.
Just strictly fact. And I asked you, by the way, Nathan, when we went to town hall afterwards, I said, hey, Nathan, was I lying? And what did you say?
I said, if we build a dome, then there'll be a WrestleMania. But it's tough in April, as you've seen here.
Sure, we could have a WrestleMania. Yeah. But guess what? We're not doing it in that freezing cold Cleveland weather. I'm sorry. It's just
no, you're right.
I'm in underwear when I wrestle, okay? I'm in Speedos.
Now, you did say a couple other things that we don't need to delve into all the facts, but that was one of the points that you made, which was certainly it's a point well taken. But I think you're going to have an opportunity. What I'm saying is to just reach out and tug on the hearts of Cleveland, a Cleveland that loves you.
Super Bowl. Maybe he wants to come to Cleveland and get a Super Bowl here too. Who knows?
Oh, I noticed you. I noticed that your we'll call it your estate is up for sale. Are you planning maybe perhaps because champions are coming back to Cleveland? Your words, not mine. Maybe you're coming back to Cleveland. I don't know. Just putting that out there. I don't know.
You'd love that, wouldn't you, Nathan? You would love.
I
that
would
I
love
come
that.
back to Cleveland.
Yes.
Be on Cleveland Browns Daily every single day that I'm home.
What a treat!
Highly unlikely. The weather out here is too amazing. It's 75 and sunny every day, and I'm right by the beach.
Yeah, don't blame you. Don't blame you. Love it here, but it's been a tough winter, Miz. I got to tell you, it has been a real tough winter. I mean, we had a day that was what this week 30.
We had grapple over the weekend, Miz.
Yeah,
Grapple.
which is a wintry mix.
He doesn't know he doesn't need to worry about.
He doesn't
that
need to worry.
anymore.
He's in
Sun,
California.
70, 75
That's
every
right.
day for him out there. Is there
Honestly, I'm sweating right now. I'm actually sweating inside my car because it's so hot out here.
even with the AC?
Even with the
sunny.
AC,
Get
yeah.
over it.
He's got
Sunglasses.
he's got a very luxurious automobile.
Miz, is there a in terms of, do you know like the process? How quickly will you get the name to look at it? Is there pronunciation? Who are going to be like your butlers that help you with that type of stuff?
That's my most nerve-wracking thing is that
Yeah.
when the name comes, I'm hoping it's like a Jackson or a Willis or a, whatever I can actually something I can actually pronounce.
just a nice, easy one?
I don't know. If I saw Njoku on a card, I definitely would not know how to pronounce it the first time that I saw it. Now, of course, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
But man, there are some tough names out there, and I just don't want to botch a name because I don't want to ruin someone's, draft. Like, this is their moment. This is the time that they've spent their entire lives building towards, and I get the opportunity and the honor to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And honestly, I get it pounds, which on points, and so that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out there and do the best I possibly can because
You're gonna be great.
that's what the Cleveland Browns deserve.
You are going to be great. I want to know this. I know your dad has got to be ecstatic about this. What's George
I
Mizan
don't know
saying?
if my dad knows, to be honest. I don't even know if I told my dad.
I
You might have
told him.
my dad before
I did tell him. I told him when
Okay.
he was taking
Of course you did.
some AIW wrestling.
Oh, he's front row for that.
Oh,
Some
yeah.
incredible crowd reaction at him.
He had
over
a
the weekend.
he had an incredible reaction on a video when Broski said some rather not nice things to a young lady about what he was going to do to her father in the main event of that night, and your dad was right behind her, and his face was priceless. Perfect. Sells it like $1 million. Incredible. Well, I'm sure he's going to be very proud. This is a prestigious thing. This is a very cool thing, and I think we're all excited. This is, right now, there is a lot of energy.
Let me ask you guys,
Yeah.
what do you think we need? Like, what do we need? Like, what is a necessity? Like, what's a
Okay.
thing that's like, hey, we could use a little backup here.
Good question.
Miz, you have provided something for my children that I can't, and that is a role model to look up to. And so this will be the solid I will do you. If you see Ojabo, that's the one we want to be able to get that pronunciation right.
Ojabo.
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 Yes.
Got it.
Ojabo.
Yes.
That's the one.
So
the
what-
defensive end out of Michigan.
Ojabo.
He's a defensive end out of Michigan, and I think that's where you're looking here at 44. You're looking edge rusher. Ojabo would be one. Logan Hall would be another. Drake Jackson, which are all you're looking for a Jackson. Maybe you will
There you
get
go.
that one. You probably want to stay away from an Arnold Ebiketie, but you never know if you might need to go down that route. But another edge. So I think it'll be an edge rusher or perhaps a receiver, which would be great. But if it's a receiver, it's probably either the only two I could really think of. Maybe I'll give you three. Sky Moore, easy. Christian Watson,
Simple.
and then a John Mechie III.
Elementary.
Nice.
Yeah, I think
All
you're
right.
good.
I
Yeah,
will
you're safe.
I think you're
out
going to be pretty
looking for
safe.
them.
Yeah, I think you're good. But I think that's where we're looking. I think we're looking edge and receiver with, two of the three picks tonight. And then, you'll probably get a best player available somewhere
Hey,
else mixed in.
Did you guys see the pick for the Patriots and the reaction of Sean McVay?
We were just talking about
Might
that.
have been the greatest reaction ever. I thought, dang it, I can't believe we wasted time looking at this guy for 104.
Miz, give me a number on the amount of cocktails you think McVay had enjoyed before that press conference.
Oh, he was having a good old time.
That's
I mean,
right.
they didn't have to worry about anything,
No.
So, I
It
mean,
was-
they were having fun. I mean, you got the Rams house. I wish the Browns would do something like that. Like, did you see what they did? Like, they did like
Yeah.
an entire movie almost.
No, that was a
And,
movie.
they really invest.
Yeah.
and they want to get people invested, and they want to get LA invested. They want to build this fan base up. I mean, they are defending reigning champions, but I still think they need to get that fan base going. You know what I mean? Like, when you come to LA, everyone's every different team because everyone's from everywhere.
Yep.
We don't have any danger of losing you, do we? It feels like you kind of
Not at all.
like the Rammies. a
Not
little
at
bit?
all. No
Okay.
way.
I love
But they
the
used to
Rams.
be the
honest,
Cleveland
I love
Rams.
the Rams, and I love
They
Sean
do.
McVay. I love the Rams, and I love Sean McVay, but I'm sorry, but Cleveland's always number one and always will be number one.
That's right.
I got to tell you, that video thing they put together, you know what it reminded me of? The Marine franchise. I felt like you were looking at like 3 minutes right out of the Marine franchise, starring maybe the greatest action hero of all time, The Miz.
Should have got an Oscar for those movies, but, you know.
You should have. It's actually
I
a
don't
real
think they get
disservice
straight
that you
DVD
did not.
Movies,
Oh,
Oscars.
Bo's frantically going to the Google machine, not familiar. Come
I'm
on.
finding it
What
right
do you
now.
mean?
What did
There's
I miss?
Marine 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did I miss any of them? They're all over the place.
6.
6. Yeah, 6. He's a star. He's an absolute star on the silver screen.
This is just good business,
It's a
is what
franchise.
this
It
is.
is great business. It's a franchise. He's the face of a franchise. Multiple, actually, now. He's the face of Miz and Mrs. He's the face of WWE, quite frankly. He's the face of Cleveland. He's the face
Miz
of the
and
Marine.
Mrs. coming out June 6th on USA Network, so you're not going to want to miss that.
Oh, baby. You hear
Miz,
that?
why did you not show up
June
until the
6th,
third
10
one?
brand new episodes, baby.
Because the first two, we need to get things going here, and then they brought in. They said we need.
I can
we
see
need
now.
a star of real consequence.
Marine 3, 4, 5, and 6 is where it really took off. Yeah,
Yeah,
they got it
if
right.
you're
I love
looking-
that you guys are still talking about the Marine when I was talking about Miz and Mrs.
Sorry.
and June 6th, USA Network. Like, I get that, like, you want to talk about the Marine, but look, Miz and Mrs. comes back.
However we can
Tommy,
serve you.
Was it
Stanley
season
Field,
3?
And it is absolutely incredible. 10 brand new episodes. It's going to be awesome.
Is your dad in it?
Of course.
Of course he is.
You know who else is in it?
And according to him, he's the star. He is the Miz in Miz and Mrs.
I was going to
No,
ask
he's
you,
not.
how's the ego on that guy with all the stars
my
that's
God,
coming
have you
his
met
way?
him?
Yeah,
Have you met him?
I'm not
I
hard of
guarantee
meeting him.
at
I've
any-
met him.
At that the event that Nathan went to that he saw him at, I guarantee my dad was taking pictures and just, hey, oh, you want a picture? Oh, you want a picture? Oh, of course you want a picture. Here you go. Take a picture.
He had a
Oh, my
crew.
God.
He had an entourage.
He's an animal.
He had 4 prime
he did.
seats. Of course he did. He's there. But let's go back to Miz and Mrs. right now. Quite an accomplishment, honestly. And I'm not saying this just because I love you, but it is true. To have this many seasons of a reality show is a very impressive thing. Because it's not a show with an ever-changing
thank
cast. It is you guys. It's a look at your life. And it's one of those things that when people watch it and they may say, oh, on TV, at the WWE, this guy's a real crud. He really can be a jerk sometimes. And then you see the reality of it is that you're just a wonderful human being. And so I think that's one of the things that's fun about it. Your family, your beautiful family, the 2 girls growing up, it's incredible. And, this is a spoiler. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. He might yell at me. He might text me after this. How could you have said that? But there is a new addition to the family who might even get some run. I've seen him on social, the Wolf of Mizanin. Have you seen this dog, Beau Bishop? This dog is an absolute beast.
Is it a dire wolf?
Yeah, he's huge.
Yes.
So, honestly, we call him Wolf because, he looks like a wolf. He's a German Shepherd, and he is trained like a highly trained, like, canine. And we got him from this place called Gold Coast Canine. And I just wanted something for protection. I've got 2 beautiful daughters that not only is he wonderful with the girls, but he's a safety precaution. Like whenever I leave or gone, I know my family is going to be safe because that dog does not allow anyone on its turf.
Dude, there's a video. You're holding like a bite. I don't even know, like a big red almost. It's not a pillow 'cause it's much sturdier than that, but he's holding for the dog to sprint at, and then that's what it goes on to. And you could just tell Mike is a very strong individual.
That's right.
I was scared. I was scared.
No joke.
So at Gold Coast Canine, they teach them how to attack people, right? And so they have these kind of really strong toys that you can tell the dog to stay down, stay. And then when you tell him to go, it just goes 100% towards you. And watching that dog run 100% towards me and literally grip onto this toy, I literally was like, I don't even know if I could, and he pulled the thing away from me. Like, I'm a strong guy.
Yes.
But this dog is intimidating.
It's probably what Kenny Pickett's going to feel like when he sees Myles Garrett coming around the corner.
I don't even know if he's going to be able to hold the ball with those hands.
On that note, Perfectly played.
I was gonna say.
Good luck tonight, buddy.
Yes, you're gonna crush it, dude.
All right, thank you guys.
Oh, there it is.
There
We'll give
it
him some
is.
play out music. Listen, they play the music after you win. There you go. There you
There
go.
it is. All right.
There it is.
All right, Miz.
Love you, brother. Crush it.
Thanks, guys. Love you, man.
All right,
Go Browns.
that is the great Miz.
What a human.
I was floored. I could have done 20 minutes on the Marine franchise. I was floored. with
Incredible.
the
I was
list
at the world premiere of one of them. Happy to say.
Where was it?
San Jose, California.
Perfect. Your homeland.
Yeah.
Near.
Very close.
Very, very close. All right, we'll get into the winners and losers from round one coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Bath Authority can give you the bathroom of your dreams. Why not transform your current bathroom into a custom bath for a spa-like experience? The Bath Authority can do it for you in about one single day, in and out in about a day. Let it make it a reality for you. They can also do it for you at a fraction of the cost of the competitors. Give them a call now at 216-220-8399 or go to thebathauthority.com. The Bath Authority is our area's premier bath and shower remodeler, largest selection of bath projects, every one of them made in the United States of A. Tub-to-shower conversions, superior products, expert installers. And if you call right now at 216-220-8399, you get $500 off your next custom bath or shower remodel. It is the Bath Authority. It's where affordability meets quality. Before we get to biggest winners and losers, so you guys were on the show. So obviously you weren't able to watch the coverage because you were producing content.
Yes.
So I am a loyal Kuiper. That's my guy. I want to see him.
Yeah, we were synced into NFL.
Okay. So as I'm watching, so it's Greeny, Riddick, Booger, Kuiper. Your skepticism is warranted. Kuiper's offset because no COVID vax.
Correct.
So he's offset.
In his own area?
He's in his own home. He's like
at
in
home.
Baltimore or whatever. He's not even there because he's not vaxxed. So he's there, all right? Greenberg could not keep up with the picks and the news. He was trying to service an opinion on everybody, and all you really wanted was Lewis on how this fits in a roster, and Kuiper most especially. You needed Kuiper after every pick. Here's what they're getting. There was no Schefter, no Mort. Like, it was those three guys and
No
Kuiper.
Schefter?
No. He's
No,
at like a
Schefter's
graduation
kid is
for his kids
graduating
at
from
Michigan.
college.
Yeah. So they didn't do that, so they did it this way. They couldn't get to Kuiper a lot of times because Booger would take so long.
Why is he there?
I have no idea. And then they could not get the information. Like, the trades would be happening, and they couldn't keep up.
The NFL was we weren't listening to it, but we were watching it, and it was excellent.
Who was on? Was it so? It was Rich, and who else? Who was the?
It was Eisen,
Jeremiah,
David Shaw.
David Shaw, who I don't know when he
The
coaches
Stanford
Stanford, but
Uh-huh.
he's on NFL Network all
loves
the time.
doing that.
And was it Charles?
Yeah, so it was Jeremiah, Charles Davis,
Yeah.
David Shaw, Rich Eisen. Satellite was Klatt and Kurt Warner.
Kurt
Yeah,
Warner.
so Klatt's really good. I don't know
Klatt's
if Warner
excellent.
knows anything about the college kids, but Klatt definitely does.
He does about the quarterbacks.
Warner was solid last night.
Yeah, it was they couldn't keep up. The trades were happening. At one point, Greenberg says he's trying to explain the A.J. Brown trade, and he's spread so thin. Like, he does the Get Up show, he does the NBA show, and now he's doing this. There's no way you could keep all this sorted out. And he was talking about how that he goes, now, obviously, they're only doing this trade because of the contract extension for A.J. Brown. It's like, well, yes, everybody knows that. That deal was consummated 5 minutes ago. They were just late to it.
My question to you, again, and I will go back to it, what was, at least in the mind of whoever decided that we needed Booger McFarland there, what was his role to be? He's not studying these guys.
I would think that if you go back to their old model of Boomer, Mel, Gruden, and Steve Young, they just always had those type of guys in the mix. But I don't know how, to answer your question, why would Booger be elevated all the way to that? I have no idea.
Why not have McShay on set?
He was nowhere. So apparently he was doing the ABC because they simulcast. So apparently he was on the ABC, which was like a college game day feel of it. With
but
Reese
Herb
Davis.
Street can't do it.
But Herb Street was out with the blood clot thing. So I think they had Jesse Palmer.
Yeah.
Which is good. I always think it makes most sense to have the college guys do it anyway. They've seen all these guys. They've studied them all.
Yeah.
So unless you're Kuiper, McShay, Jeremiah, and that's your job, I'd rather have the college guys than the NFL experts, right? And so I don't know why Booger was there at all.
They needed, and that's where NFL Network, say what we want to about a rap sheet, but they would go to him for every breaking trade.
Yeah.
We're going right to him, and he was ready to go.
They put all that on Greenberg on ESPN.
Yeah,
so they
that's
had nobody
too much.
doing
You
the
can't
breaking
host
news.
and deliver that.
No, you could tell.
You got to traffic cop it.
I mean, he was trying to traffic cop direct, and he was trying to get his 2 cents in, and also it was too much. It was too much.
Wow.
Absolutely too much. So tonight, I'll give the NFL tonight. It was weird not having Kuiper on set.
I'm sure.
It was weird because he's my guy. You love the Kuipers. All right, biggest winners from night one. It starts with the Jets, doesn't it?
No doubt.
They got 3 top 15 talents.
And I thought it was an incredible job by them. I love, Sauce Gardner, elite corner. Get that for the defense. You get Garrett Wilson. Like, that just alone would have been great. And then you throw Jermaine Johnson on top of it. Feels like a really good draft.
Yeah.
And they also get, not that he's a draft pick, but they signed Carl Lawson, who we certainly were enamored with in that free agency process. He never played it down for them.
No.
So they're adding those 4 alone to that roster.
Yeah, more power in the AFC.
Yeah, they're a team right now that I bet after that draft, they're thinking, why not? Like, are we that scared of the Patriots? Are we that scared of the Dolphins?
Yeah.
The Bills are good, but maybe we can make a run at them. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I thought they had a great draft. I thought the Lions had a really nice draft.
And looking
Hutchinson
through it,
and Jamison Williams.
Yeah.
Jamison Williams. I mean, Hutchinson was most people's consensus #1 player in this draft. So you get him at 2, and then you get, if healthy, Jamison Williams is the #1 receiver in this draft.
Yes.
And you gave up, to move 20 picks, you gave up, I think, a third is all you did to move up 20 picks.
I don't understand that.
I don't either. I have no idea what.
And I don't know if
that's our
there's been
guy,
a press
but
conference with our guy, because I'm sure he would have the reason why they did that. But
it's such a minimal give to go up to get a blue chip. Like, we had Glenn on yesterday, and we were talking with him, and it felt like 1 through 15, and then it starts to even out. But 1 through 15 were dudes. Jamison Williams is a dude. The Lions got 2 of the 15 best players in this draft.
They certainly did. By the way, this is coming out. Ian Rappaport just reported this a few minutes ago that on McAfee's show that Treylon Burks was the receiver that Aaron Rodgers wanted the most and had done the most research on. He goes at pick 18. The Packers' first pick, obviously, was at 22, and so they don't get him. Interesting. I'm sure he's very, again, not pleased. Not pleased.
It was strange yesterday, too, because he also said how he was surprised by the Devontae Adams thing.
But hadn't he already said he knew it when he was coming back?
Yes, he already said he knew, so I don't understand what game he's trying to play there. I don't understand it.
Strange. This is a great note from Mel Kiper Jr. First time in the Common Era draft since 1967 that a running back and a tight end were both – I'm going to work on his wording. Let me just say this in a better way of using English. This is the first time in the Common Draft era that neither a running back nor a tight end were selected in round 1.
I asked the question this morning on the running back, the last time a running back didn't go in the first round. And they were talking a little bit about Breece Hall late in the first, but nothing picked
substantial,
up.
Yeah.
Going back to our conversation about wide receivers and quarterbacks, Chris Sims, I thought, had a great tweet early this morning.
Yeah.
Kind of baffling how these QBs and wide receivers seemingly don't communicate with each other.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a bunch of nonsense. I think they know. Like the idea that Lamar didn't know that they were trading Hollywood Brown when they're best friends, and Hollywood Brown saying today in Arizona or last night in Arizona that he knew that he had requested a trade. Like, why would you act like it was a surprise?
By the way, how did he get there already?
He's training out there.
He must be, right? Like, he was there.
Yeah,
they had a
draft
thing that was
party.
as if he was drafted by them.
Yeah. I think one of the most interesting things that's happened in the NFL is if you think about the NFL and the groupthink, right? Copycat league. So forever it was, if you draft a quarterback, well, he's going to have to conform to our system.
No.
So we're going to put him under center.
Yep.
Michael Vick's the best example. Put him under center. He's going to play the West Coast offense. The fact that nobody took Michael Vick, put him in the shotgun, and said, RPO, let's go, is insane. Okay? But that's how the league used to be run. Same is true at running back. We used to pick running backs really high. We've picked some running backs really high. You don't do that anymore.
No.
You don't force quarterbacks to be something they're not anymore. At receiver, I feel like right now there is no groupthink. But it feels like there are teams that draft and develop receivers to the point of it's time to pay them, and then they're getting off of them to replace them immediately. And yet the team that is acquiring them is also feeling like they hit the lottery. So it's like, which is it? It feels like
it can be both.
Apparently it is. Every time one of these deals happens, it feels like both sides feel like they won.
Well, yeah, because one side got an absolutely proven commodity for a theoretical asset, and the other side got more theoretical assets that they've then turned into a receiver that they hope will one day be a proven commodity. I think it started with, and I'm sure it probably goes back further than this, but the most recent example where it was just a blatant, we're trading a receiver and then drafting a receiver, was trading Stephon Diggs by the Vikings,
yeah.
and then they draft Justin Jefferson. Everybody's like, wait, that seemed really easy. Now I'm getting the same production, if not better, in the case of Jefferson, for $20 million under value.
So my question, I guess what I think is interesting is why aren't more teams viewing it through the Vikings prism rather than the Bills prism?
Because I think a lot of them are, though.
But some of them aren't, and that's the thing. Usually there's a group think.
Well,
it's
because
like
the
half
Bills
the league is split,
are thrilled,
right? But they
with
would rather
Stephon
have
Diggs.
Jefferson. I'm sure.
I don't know. If
And they
you-
could have just
I don't know
picked
if
him.
you'd get that kind of truth serum from them, but yes.
If there were a serum that made you tell the truth, I feel like they would. Right? You'd rather have Jefferson.
Jefferson.
Yeah, than having to pay Diggs.
Sure.
And the same thing with Philly last night with that deal. And I like the deal. A.J. Brown's a stud. I love the deal. And I also think what's happening is a lot of these teams that are drafting or trading for these receivers are either to placate a current quarterback or lift a quarterback. So the thinking is if you're Philly, is Treylon Burks going to elevate Jalen Hurts as much as A.J. Brown? No, clearly not. Not right away.
And
he may develop into it. And in the other one in Arizona, clearly Kyler wanted his boy.
Yep.
So let's placate.
But going back to the A.J. Brown, doesn't that also make A.J. Brown being there makes it more attractive? A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, those are their top two receivers now.
No, I know.
I'm saying that makes it more attractive, not only
sure.
but for
sure.
Lamar to say, that's where I want to go.
I want to go there. Yeah.
I thought the Giants getting Thibodeau at number 5
Yeah, I like that too.
was a huge pick.
I like him better than Walker.
Yeah. I thought that was a big standout. Washington getting Dotson at 16 thought was a little bit of a reach. Maybe. But, that's – everybody got nervous because they'll run on wide receivers.
Than anybody would have thought, but I really like him.
As
they
good a
wanna pay
draft as
McLaurin?
Baltimore had,
Maybe not.
who's playing a wide receiver for the Ravens?
Come on down.
Well, they have Bateman.
They have Bateman. They've
Okay.
got Devin Duvernay.
Yeah. Bateman's a stud.
Mark Andrews. I mean,
Yeah.
Is Bateman a stud without Brown?
Yeah.
I think
think he's
Bateman.
fine,
I
yeah.
think they think he can be the number one guy.
Yeah. And I don't know that Brown – I think that's why I was blown away by what they gave up to get Brown versus what the Titans got for Philly. To me, Philly crushed it.
Well, and the thing is, if you're them, could you have drafted somebody? Now, it would have been at this point Watson, or it could have been Sky Moore, who's very different than Hollywood Brown. But you kind of think about what they've got now. You've got the vertical guy in Hollywood Brown who's going to open everything up for intermediate guy DeAndre Hopkins, and then you have Rondale Moore, who is going to be a distant third in terms of what people are thinking about, right? And don't they still also have A.J. Green?
Yeah, they still have A.J. Green. Yep.
So, and Zach Ertz. It's an interesting offense.
Yeah, it is.
It's going to create space. What he's there to do is create space. Last year, who created space for that team? Nobody. He's going to create space. He's going to create space for Hopkins. He's going to create space for Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore wasn't a vertical guy, but now if all of a sudden Rondale Moore's catching the ball in space 5 yards, 7 yards down the field, that's where he's dangerous. That's where he can catch and run. I don't mind that. On turf, I think he's going to be fast. I like Hollywood Brown more than I think you do, obviously, and doing the show with Mo Pedman's cousin last night. He's not on him. I've been on the sidelines watching him, and you see the impact he has on a game because of his speed. There's no doubt the guy can flat out fly.
Yeah.
And defense is respected.
Yeah.
I know we respect the heck out of it.
No question. No question. I just like A.J. Brown a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's from a loser standpoint. I mean, you hate even saying this. I don't know. I was floored that the Steelers took Pickett. I really was. And I was listening to Tomlin last night, and he goes, we thought he had the highest floor. And I thought, God, that's not what you want. We think he's in other words, AKA is the safest pick.
What's different about him than
Mitch Trubisky?
Andy Dalton. Yeah, Mitch Trubisky, who I thought was Dalton-y with a little more athleticism, but less accuracy. Pickett's a pretty accurate thrower.
He is, but he's not
he certainly doesn't have a hose.
No, and here's the deal, and I'll acknowledge, I blew Josh Allen, blew it. I thought for sure that accuracy.
He's done something though that nobody else has ever done.
True, but I didn't see it. I did not see it. So I get these things wrong a lot. I wasn't convinced on Herbert, but in both of those examples, what I did know is that the arm talent was elite. You knew they could whip it, right? They had something. They had an elite trait.
Sure.
that others in the draft either didn't have or couldn't match. And with Pickett, I don't see an elite trait. So when you think about, it felt like they tried to force it almost. That's why I thought, why not just sit it out?
And Pittsburgh radio leading up to yesterday, there were numerous reports that were saying, like, the Steelers are hoping someone else takes Kenny Pickett. Because if he's on the board, they're probably going to be forced into this pick.
Why?
Is it like the ghosts of Dan Marino?
I don't know.
Like they regretted that only forever? Like, I mean, I feel like you couldn't allow that.
Listen, I think for us, it feels like his ceiling, even if he reaches it, would keep him as still being the fourth best quarterback in this division, which I think as a Browns fan is a wonderful thing to say that about the Steelers quarterback, which is not something we have said for basically the entirety of Ben Roethlisberger's career.
Same. Yeah. Well, that's what Tomlin said. I mean, that's what Tomlin said yesterday.
Congratulations,
Not
pukers.
that he's the fourth best, but he goes, look, it's this guy. We thought he had the highest floor. I've just never heard that with a first-round pick.
Yeah.
We think he has the highest floor?
In other words, we think he's safe.
He's safe.
We're not that excited about him, but we know he's not going to be a zero. But the bottom line is,
Tomlin also goes, we spent the entire time canvassing the entire country, visiting all these quarterbacks, and we ended up with the guy across the street. He said that too. Like, you could tell he wasn't thrilled. It was interesting.
I saw some things from some Pittsburgh people that now they were talking themselves into it, but then I saw a lot of people who were saying that Tomlin's got to go.
Well, they say that every year.
He's never had a losing season.
It is stunning.
That's crazy.
He's either loved there or he is hated, and it's about 50-50.
It's crazy to me.
I just don't get it.
Hard to get.
Yeah.
My friend. All right, coming up at the top of the hour, it is time to pay attention to what we are going to do and what we will be looking for at 44 and in the third round as well. Matt Waldman will join us. Dane Brugler really loaded up here in the final hour, getting you set for rounds 2 and 3 of the NFL Draft tonight. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Here's a remarkable stat from day one of the NFL draft. I think we would all say that the University of Texas is a pretty big college football program. They have not had a first-round pick on the offensive side of the ball since Vince Young in 2006.
Well, then I would say they're not a big program.
They've become a museum program, and we didn't even know it.
We do now.
That's crazy.
Right? Wrap your head around that. All that talent.
They're gonna pretty soon, Texas is gonna have an Instagram page. They go, "Hey, this is me, Texas.
Texas.
You know me from Vince Young, back
Colt
in
McCoy.
2006.
Hey,
Scaramouche, Quesadouche." And they're just gonna start playing his highlights. Hey, this is me,
Just Vince
Texas
Young
football.
Little Godfather music underneath.
You
it?
remember me when I was in The Wedding Singer with Vince Young?
I didn't remember that. Also didn't remember him as Jingle Banano in
Chico Batando.
in the Godfather.
He's
2.
dodging you though.
He is dodging me. He won't return.
Him
my
ducking
direct-
you is out.
He didn't
is
return my message. It sucks.
the second most.
It's good. I'll get it
egregious thing I've
rectified.
heard
I'll
of
get it
this
sorted out. I'll get it sorted out.
By the way,
Um,
another note, interesting note. Carolina last night taking that offensive lineman from NC State.
Mhm.
Hickey?
I had to do a little homework. Ken sent me to one of the lead draft researchers for CBS Sports who said was the first ever player from NC State to go
Did you
to Carolina.
just call the entertaining Will Brinson one of the lead draft researchers for CBS,
For CBS Sports,
'Cause
I believe that just happened.
send him that clip so he can add that to his resume.
It's pretty
I mean,
good.
he is an amazing individual, but
He's
like
highly
he
entertaining.
is the one that was
Carolina
I
had
guess,
never taken an NC State kid.
No, never.
Well, they're in
any
Charlotte,
round.
and the others in Raleigh.
Yeah.
Right.
So, have they taken anybody from North Carolina?
I don't have an answer.
Are they adverse
I will
to
text
everybody
him
So
right now.
we were talking about
NC
good
State's
players
not-
from NC
NC
State.
State isn't necessarily like
A football
this
factory.
football factory. They got Mario Williams, they got Torrey Holt, they got a few guys
Russ.
here and there.
But like
He's
seven
Let me
rounds a
okay.
year. There's
Good.
not
I'm glad you
one?
said that because it's. But maybe it's just because maybe if we were doing a show in North
I
Carolina,
know where you're going, but I'm going to tell you why.
Joe Burrow's Ohio State, Jameson
no,
Williams, Ohio
Burrow
State.
is not. Burrow is not.
Jameson Williams.
Burrow did not play at Ohio State and then lit up LSU
Okay.
and developed into who he was at LSU. Jameson Williams was developed at Ohio State, played one season at Bama, but he played for Ohio State and was
Did
good when he
Russ
was
play
there.
at NC State or did he?
No, he did, but they also chose they told him he wanted to play baseball. They said no, and he was not considered a prospect in any way until he went to Wisconsin. That's what changed it. That's what
Okay.
elevated him.
I'm just saying to you.
Yeah.
That was, case of
But that's the difference. Even a big difference, even with the Burrow Williams, the tremendous difference to me between the two. Burrow,
But people still,
you could
many of us have cited Joe Burrow and linked him to Ohio State.
I don't know. I always think of him as LSU's Joe Burrow.
Well, same.
But I also think I hope I explained that properly. That
Yeah, no, you
versus
did.
Williams
Yeah.
and Burrow, very, very different.
But Russ, like you could at least say, I like to watch some Russ NC State games. They exist.
They do, and he played there for, I want to say he was a 3-year starter there. I think he played as a true freshman there. So he did play a lot.
Did he
there.
follow Glennon or precede Glennon?
No, Glennon was the reason he left
Glennon's
because
the
they
reason he left, okay.
they chose to play Glennon over him. Odd decisions all around.
Yeah.
Odd decisions all the way around. No odd decision here. Your business is shopping for an enterprise operating system, and you're looking for the right partner or where to begin. I can help you. My friends at EOX Vantage, they're the guys. Data scientists, business operations experts. Your EOX Vantage team not only builds and installs your system, they act as your ongoing tech support, so you're hiring a continuous improvement and support systems. EOX Vantage is not tied to any single brand or hardware or software, so you're getting a truly customized, purpose-built solution along with a partner that answers only to you. And EOX Vantage does not outsource. All the operational expertise, proprietary solutions, and tech support come from one unified partner. See how companies have profited from hiring one fully objective operating systems partner at EOXVantage.com. We sit at 44. We've kind of outlined this over the last couple of weeks, kind of where we think this thing could go.
Yep.
I'll give you 3 choices. You give me most likely to least. And acknowledging that this will all depend on the board. So this is
Sure,
kind
of
an
course.
Operation futility. Receiver, D-end, trade back.
You want okay? Those are the 3 choices.
Yeah, most likely to least. Acknowledging that we don't know how the board's going to fall.
D end. trade back receiver. And the reasoning is I don't believe the receivers that we like enough to take at 44 versus what would be available in the third round will be there. Now, you didn't list trade up.
I didn't because for the reason
I'd
that
put
you
it
just
forth,
laid out.
But you might, if that's what we really coveted, I think it would necessitate a trade up.
Right.
Watson's
because
a little older than our profile, right? 23, had some drops, but averaged 20 yards a catch. He's 6'4", runs a 4.3 40, and he's somebody that would, number one, be good in the blocking game because of his size, but number two, he would open a lot of things up. Now, I know that there's a belief here that Anthony Schwartz can develop, and that's why he was drafted, to develop to be a guy that helps open this offense up. I just don't think the receivers that they really, really, really would covet will be there at 44. I could be wrong. I'd be happy to be wrong if one of those guys falls, and then we'll see, because that would be interesting. What do they do if Ajabo, if Watson, Drake Jackson, Logan Hall, what would they do if they were all on the board? That'll be the real tell of what their ranking was.
You'd love to be in that spot if
Love.
somehow that happened, yeah. And I think to
unlikely.
the age thing, you do have to realize we're dealing with a COVID year here, so especially the smaller school guys, you're talking about, in many instances, like remember North Dakota State only played the one game that one year because of Trey Lance.
Yep.
Some of them did like a spring season. They played like 3 games in the spring. So there's some of that's in some of the age with some of the small school guys as well.
Yep, no doubt. And
So.
We talked with Glenn about that. We asked him that question. We had Glenn Cook on, and he said, this year's a little bit different. Next year might even be a little bit different, but then we'll probably kind of normalize that out. But I think it's certain positions too. Receiver is a position that does not necessarily have a huge degradation in your skills over time relative maybe to some other positions.
Yeah.
So if you got a guy who's 23, would you rather have a 21-year-old? Of course. Guess what? 2 years in the league. Now they're 23.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But that would be interesting. But I go defensive end. I go wide receiver, trade back, then wide receiver.
Yeah.
And I would put trade up and defensive tackle below those 3.
I like where your head's at.
Thank you.
It does feel like Watson is the one that, this isn't scores, but just from my vantage point, looking at who's available, it feels like he's the last one that might be a cut above. And then
people like Sky Moore quite a bit too, but very different. Sky Moore would be our inside receiver.
Yeah. And then Pickens, I just think there's too much.
It feels like it.
Too much. And then there's a dip, and then you're in the Mechie, David Bell world. And those guys, I like Bell a lot.
Pickens had his draft prop of, the over-under on his position in the draft. I think started at like 33.5 or 34.5, and it's up to 48.5.
Yeah.
Or 46, 48, but a significant jump because I think that the consensus around the league is now somebody's going to stop his fall, and somebody may end up getting, he's 21, tremendous athlete, somebody may end up getting an uber talent.
Yeah.
But it's going to take a very particular situation, and he's going to have to want to be that guy.
If a car, truck, or motorcycle accident caused your injury, call the injury lawyers at 1-800-ELK-OHIO for a free case review. Elk & Elk is a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Matt Waldman, the rookie scouting portfolio. Coming up next, you'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Rumpke Waste Recycling, family-owned and operated. Whether you join them as a customer or as an employee, you'll become part of the family. Visit rumpke.com to learn more. I'll tell you what, there's Browns Therapy. What a job out of you on this. That's amazing.
I think I even did a real appropriate quesadilla as well.
I think you did.
I'm starting to move into that one a little bit, leaning into it.
Quesadilla. I got Bootsy working on that. He's dropping a quesadilla now.
Is he?
Yeah, which is pretty good.
Oh man.
Yeah, he's living quite well. All right, so yesterday at this time, I asked you, do you think something will happen outside the draft that is more interesting, or the draft? Turns out it was probably outside, because it's all the trades. I mean, you had two huge blockbuster trades involving receivers that came out of nowhere. The Hollywood Brown thing came out of the clear blue sky.
It was so fun.
That was pure joy. I loved it.
By the way, to go ahead and get on out of our conference to the NFC trades too. How about that?
I like that. Yeah,
I like that. Which is nice. Which is
very nice. Yeah.
By the way, I got a tweet from Greg real quick. I think you're going to enjoy this one. No. Well,
More importantly, we'll talk to Matt Waldman, the rookie scouting portfolio, joining us now on the hotline. Matt, thanks so much for taking the time. Nathan and I were talking about, leading into this draft, we weren't sure it would have the interest and the intrigue, and boy, were we wrong. Just absolutely fun stuff last night. 9 trades, veteran receivers changing teams. As you woke up this morning and kind of looking at the landscape of the NFL, what was the headline for you?
I mean, I think, Dan, Tony, the A.J. Brown trade was probably the biggest one, is just the fact that with the wide receivers and the signing of Christian Kirk and that salary, just kind of freed things up where you saw a lot of movement. And the fact that Hollywood Brown left and then A.J. Brown came into Philadelphia, I thought those were highlights. And then as far as the players getting drafted, I think, Jordan Davis with Philadelphia. Philadelphia had themselves a nice draft. I thought the Giants had a nice draft as well, and you didn't even need me jumping off the top of the steel cage on the Miz to get the 1, 2, 3. So it was pretty exciting.
It was exciting. Tremendous drop right there.
Nice drop. Yeah.
Love to hear that. All right, I go back a few years ago. The Browns, now they were much earlier in the second round, and you told us of your great affinity and your great affection for Nick Chubb. So I'm going to ask you to dial up that kind of magic once again. I'll give you 2 positions here in the second round, receiver and then, defensive end, if you've got one, if you got an edge, but I know you'll have a receiver that you really like for the Browns at 44.
Yeah, we'll talk about the receiver because that's really
that's your sweet spot. Yes.
Positions are my wheelhouse. So we'll say that I like this Christian Watson kid out of North Dakota State. He reminds me of a play. Well, number one, when you look at that his frame, he looks like he can add another 8 to 10 pounds of muscle and still be that explosive player that he already is. It's in that 4.3-ish range. Long, good length, tall, runs like a punt returner, but also can run in traffic with patience. And the skills that he knows are things that he can build on to become a better player. They're not things you have to strip away from his game and then rework. And the fact that he played in a West Coast offense at North Dakota State means that you're looking at a player who has some understanding of some pro concepts already incorporated into his game. So to me, I see a player who, if Javon Walker or Martavis Bryant had worked out in terms of their maturity level to really elevate their games and sustain that elevation, I think Christian Watson has that kind of potential to his game. And I would love to see the Cleveland Browns get someone like him because I think he can play a couple of spots for you. He wouldn't be bad. And then maybe, another guy. I like Alec Pierce. And I think that for Cleveland, Alec Pierce is a nice option because he can block. And the fact that you can play him tight in tight sets to the line near the tight ends or on the opposite side in the box where he can do a decent job of blocking down and at least handle himself on some quick hitting plays against linebackers or safeties or nickels, and then you run the play action off of it. That forces the defense to account for the fact that he actually legitimately can block. He's a decent route runner who can get a little bit more bend in his weight and be able to become a little bit more sudden, but he's great at attacking the ball. There are a lot of players in this draft George Pickens is a good example of a guy down around my area and from my area who was at the school I went to, where you watch him go up and attack a ball, and while he makes a lot of highlight-worthy plays, the problem with him is that he also puts himself in position where he has to make those highlight-worthy plays and didn't really need to. And Alec Pierce is really good, like Jamar Chase is good at it, or Justin Jefferson, or Stephon Diggs, where he can jump straight up into the air and win the ball and make the defender play through him. And a lot of big, tall receivers don't do that. They wind up parallel to the ground when they're in the air and open up their frame. And so I like Pierce as a guy that you can build on. And look, I mean, athletically, he's not far away from Justin Jefferson. Technically, he is. I mean,
Sure.
Jefferson is great, but he jumps 3.5 inches tall more than Jefferson does, and isn't that far out of the ballpark in terms of speed and quickness. And I think he made Desmond Ridder look a little bit better than I think Desmond Ridder actually is. So, overall, those are two guys that I really like, and I know folks like Sky Moore, and certainly he's a compelling player. There's a lot of Antonio Brown kind of comparisons. I think he's better. I think he's better at the catch point than he is after the catch. I think he's a little overrated after the catch and a little underrated at the catch point, which is kind of the reverse of how a lot of people see him. But I would probably prefer the bigger receivers of the two, who have the upside to develop into a little bit more as route runners and who can give you some of that physicality in the run game that really complements what the offense does.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Matt, and I appreciate those comments, and I always love listening to you. I love the Martavis Bryant comparison. I remember watching him with the Steelers early in his career before, unfortunately, it was derailed.
Javon Walker, that's
Javon
a deep
Walker,
cut. I
Green.
covered him
Oh,
in
yeah.
Tallahassee at Florida State. That was a
Green
deep
Bay.
cut. I haven't heard his name in a long time.
Yeah, those are two good ones. Those
Yeah,
are
he
two
was
that
a
got me
dude.
pretty excited. Those guys could absolutely
Yeah, he was a dude.
ball out there. When you mentioned Pierce, one question I had for you is I got a good friend, Cleve TA, who charts a lot of the stuff, and his yards after the catch per reception is not where a lot of the receivers coming out that we've seen be successful in the NFL talking about Pierce, and that maybe might be the only one knock on him. Is that because he was running so many verticals when you watch him on tape, or are you comfortable with his ability after the catch at the next level?
I didn't think it was especially good when I watched it on film. I thought, there were a lot of plays where he did catch the ball over the middle, and he just didn't look as fluid athletically with the ball in his hand than he does as a route runner in vertical routes or in drills. So yeah, that's a thing to keep an eye out for. But also you got to remember too, sometimes the context of those types of things can be: does your quarterback lead you, in stride when you're catching the ball? Do you have to make certain adjustments? Is he leading you into traffic? Are there difficult situations that he has to play through? And I saw that he does catch the ball in traffic a fair bit, and so as a result of that, I don't know if I'd put as much stock into that as maybe some other people do. I don't think it's a liability as much as it is just isn't a strength.
Matt, let's say that it's a trade down, or let's say that receiver is not addressed in the second. Let into the third. Who are some guys in that range that you like, that you think would be a good fit here? Some names maybe we need to pay attention to if it is the third round where we address receiver.
Sure. Well, I mean, if there's a lot of people in the media community who love Pickens as a second round guy, but I wouldn't be surprised if he falls to the third. And certainly the potential is there for him to develop, in the sense that he does have the good hands. He has the potential with routes and releases. He just has a lot of little things to clean up. And if you can get past any type of the rumblings that they say about him maybe not being the most mature guy in terms of ready to work, he could still have some high value for you. I like Mekhi Polk, who I think can go even later. And I'll mention one guy I love, but Mekhi Polk I'll mention right away, the Cal and Mississippi State guy, who gives you a nice possession receiver, good route runner, tough at the catch point. But my favorite receiver, probably who will be around in the third, is what I would call a Steelers type wide receiver. And we're familiar with those guys who understand how to get downhill quick. They know how to finish strong, even if their size isn't great. They can win at the at the catch point and work over the middle, and that's Khalil Shakir out of Boise State.
Yep.
He's a favorite of mine. I think he has some issues with clapping on the ball sometimes, which leads to fighting targets and in tight areas. But he has great tracking skills, and the clapping on the ball is really an issue of just refining your technique. Deontay Johnson had that issue and led the league in drops one year, and then last year I think he didn't have one for the first 10 to 12 weeks of the season. So it's just a matter of refining your technique, and I think Shakir is the type of guy who you can use in a couple of different spots. He can win deep for you. He can make the tough plays over the middle. He's a football player, and I think the Browns have figured out that mentality that they want to draft and want to acquire football players, not just specialized athletes and who do one thing well, and then you're hoping that the rest of it all comes together.
Does he remind you a little bit of Deontay in addition to just the catching?
Yes, he does. He reminds me of Deontay very much so. He
Deontay.
also reminds me of a player who was my top player in this draft at the wide receiver position, and that's Chris Olave. I just think he's not quite as refined version of Chris Olave. So if so if he can if he can play to his upside, and I don't think he's that far away, he could become one of your top two receivers and really like a nice 1B in a prolific offense. Like He has that capability. So his ability to track the ball, especially difficult acrobatic situations, is really strong, and the route running's there. I mean, again, these are things to build on. He has the ability to stop quickly. He has the ability to get in and out of his breaks quickly. He seems to run zone routes pretty well at this point. He works open. He's a high-effort player, physical at the, when he finishes, good pad level, wants to initiate contact to finish, doesn't just go out of bounds when at the first opportunity. He's an AFC North player. I'll just put it that way. At least from a Browns, Steelers, Ravens perspective, and those three teams, we watch more than anybody.
No doubt. Talking with the great Matt Waldman. All right, Matt, a couple of receivers that some people could think also could go in the third, and I didn't hear you mention one, obviously coming off of an injury that I'm guessing had he not had, maybe he goes earlier, maybe you would say not. John Mechie, the third out of Alabama, and then from a smaller school, Jalen Tolbert out of South Alabama. Do you like either of those guys? If so, why? If not, why not?
I like both of them. I'm not in love with either of them.
Okay.
Tolbert I have actually ranked higher than Mechie. He's more of a a short-term project, I would put it. He does a lot of the tough things, but a lot of the small details of his game are going to need a little bit of work, but he could develop into a contributor. Mechie, to me, it's the catch point. He drops a lot of targets from what I tracked, and they were the type of targets where if they're on his frame, he had difficulty discerning when to use the overhand position, when to use the underhand position, and when it's tight coverage and contact, that can be an issue. But, as a potential slot player who can also get deep for you in certain looks, I'd like him more as a third or fourth receiver that people are going to try and value as being a first or second guy. I just don't think he's quite there.
So you would be the happiest for Browns fans if they came out of today with one of Watson, Pierce, or Khalil Shakir. That's what I took away from you right there. Those are the three guys that you would want to be wearing the brown and orange.
Yeah, that would be very nice.
Well, it's very nice that we can have you on, especially on a day like this. But anytime, it's a win, Matt. Thank you so much for your time, pal.
Hey, man, it's my pleasure.
He gave us great analysis and dropped an elbow off the steel cage on the miss. Perfect.
A lot of wins. Lots of stacking wins there from Matt Waldman of the rookie scouting portfolio. And he is on a skill position off the charts.
Unbelievable.
Really.
And listen, folks, he pegged Nick Chubb being what Nick Chubb is before that draft on this very program. He said this guy is the best running back in this class. He's going to be one of the best running backs in the NFL. I think that he's incredibly special. Right.
Nailed it. Brugler, who nails it, too.
Oh, baby.
He's up next. We got a mock round second and third. He's all set, ready to go.
Friday.
Cleveland Browns Daily, 850. ESPN Cleveland. A lot of bad advice out there about gambling, from secret methods to picking lottery numbers to betting big when you're on a roll. The myths can lose you money and get you in a lot of trouble. So before you wager, find out what's real and what isn't at keepitfunohio.com. And with that, we head on the hotline for visit our good buddy Dane Brugler, the Athletic. We will get into his mock round 2 and 3 mocks, who he has us taking. But first, Dane, as you observed round 1, what stood out for you? Who won? Who lost?
A lot of these teams with multiple first-round picks, I thought, really did well for themselves. And if you're going to have multiple first-round picks, you should. And so you look at what the Jets did, going with Sauce Gardner at 4, coming back with the playmaker, Garrett Wilson at 10. That Wilson-to-Wilson connection with Zach Wilson and Garrett Wilson should be something that helps that sophomore quarterback in New York. And then the Lions, Jermaine Johnson. The Jets could trade back into the first round and get Jermaine Johnson, who I think – they wanted to take at number 10, but they chose offense, they chose playmaker, and then when Jermaine Johnson fell to a certain point, they saw their opportunity to go get him. So the Jets absolutely they nailed what they wanted to do, and they still have a high pick tonight. So the Jets killed it. The Detroit Lions coming away with Aiden Hutchinson at 2, and then trading back up for Jamison Williams, getting that burner, that guy with speed that can really be special. So you have him with Amon-Ra St. Brown. All of a sudden, the Lions, they're building something on offense. The offensive line looks good. T.J. Hawkinson, they're about to lock up. You drop a quarterback in there in next year's draft, a C.J. Stroud, whoever, and all of a sudden the Lions are looking pretty good. Saints, Chris Olave, Trevor Penning, they wanted to come out of this first round with a tackle and a receiver. They did exactly that. So a lot of these teams with multiple first-round picks, as expected, they should do well, and a lot of them did.
It was a fun draft. I mean, I don't know what you thought, Dane. Trades going left and right, players getting traded, picks getting traded. Unbelievable just action. It never dragged. You know, I feel like sometimes in the old days teams would wait all the 15 minutes and there wasn't – not anymore. It was action-packed. Yeah. What did you think of just kind of all the movement and seeing how teams are approaching, this era where first-round picks aren't untouchable?
Oh, it was amazing. And I tell you what, I needed that adrenaline because after doing everything post-draft, I had to come home or come back to the hotel, do a second and third mock draft. So it was a late night, but all the adrenaline from the first round, it was there. I mean, it was palpable. So it was a lot of fun. And there were no trades in the top 10, but then once we got outside the top 10, that's where it was just a flurry of moves. We saw the wide receiver run. We saw some veteran wide receivers get moved, which is really interesting. And then, later on in the back half of round 1, where we saw some real surprises, especially Cole Strange going to the Patriots at 29. I mean, that drew just I don't know. I was excited just to see this really talented offensive lineman from Chattanooga who I didn't rank as a top 2-round guy. He was a third rounder, an early third rounder for me, but you like him quite a bit. And the Patriots every year have one of the smallest draft boards. I mean, most draft boards are 120, 150 names. Patriots are 75, 80. They don't have a lot of names on their draft board, and they don't care where the other teams have these guys ranked. If they feel like they might not be able to get Cole Strange in the second round, they're going to take him right where they did. And so Cole Strange is a plug-and-play guard. They want to play him at center. They can do that as well. So that was a lot of fun to see him go that high.
And it was a lot of fun to see the reactions from Sean McVay and Les Snead in real time as that unfolded. I mean, is there a little bit of buzz about that reaction and just the fact that we all got to see that kind of unfold in real time?
Well, it's funny. I had the same reaction, and I mean, I was doing a live reaction too, and so I tweeted. They tweeted my reaction. It's the most excited I was all night, and I mean, it's just the last name you expected to hear. I mean, you're thinking, okay, Patriots could go maybe linebacker here, Nakobe Dean. Maybe they go with a DB, and then it's Cole Strange, and it's just, oh my gosh, that's what we were hoping for in a draft like this, because every year there's anywhere between 18 to 22 first-round grades for most teams. And so we see second-round players go in the first round every year.
Yep.
This year, talking before the draft, saying, there's a good chance we could see some third-rounders, at least what we perceive as third-rounders going in the first round, because boards are so similar in that, 15 to 75 range. There's not a lot of gaps between all these players. So if there's a team like the Patriots who have a high grade on a guy like Cole Strange, it wouldn't be a surprise. And so, but yeah, it's still a lot of fun to see that happen. And yeah, it gave us a little bit of adrenaline to finish strong.
Dane, how did the first round set up for us to do some damage here in the second and third? Did it work out okay for us? Are there still a lot of targets you like for the Browns at 44? Just in terms of the way that it went, how did it sit for us?
We saw, 6 receivers come off the board in the first 18 picks, and then we kept waiting. Okay, when's that second run on receiver start? That Christian Watson, George Pickens, Sky Moore. Surely somewhere, the Chiefs, the Packers, one of those teams in the final 6 to 7 picks in the first round, that's where it was going to pick back up again. And it never happened. So now it becomes really interesting, especially with all those quarterbacks still on the board. I mean, this is the first time since 2007 that we're going to have more quarterbacks drafted in the second round than the first round. And so, seeing some of these quarterbacks fall, if you're the Browns, sitting there at 44, you're hoping that a Malik Willis, a Desmond Ridder, maybe a Sam Howell, maybe a Matt Corral, that these guys come off the board pretty quickly tonight. That's just going to push another good player down to 44 in the Browns. And we talked about this, Nathan, especially you bring this up a lot, how it's in the second round, Andrew Berry is not afraid to move around, up, back, whatever. He will be aggressive and kind of play around a little bit, especially when they have 2-3s, where if they see their guy, and to me, Sky Moore, I would love to see them go up and get Sky Moore, the receiver out of Western Michigan. I just don't think he's going to make it to 44, but if he is still on the board at, say, 37, 38, maybe you can do it with a fourth round pick. I don't know, but I would really like to see them come out of the second round with a guy like Sky Moore.
Yeah, and it feels like Moore, Watson, who I know the Browns had for a visit, intriguing size speed combo. I know you like Sky Moore better. You're number 7 ranked receiver on your board. It feels like those guys won't be there, which leads us to what you did, I'm guessing, in your mock, where the receivers were gone and the Browns go to the edge position. And so tell us what you did at that edge spot, who you'd be targeting if you're eyeing the Browns. Logan Hall's still out there. There's some people who think he may go to Tampa here with his first pick of the second round, but I'm hoping maybe they go with a defensive tackle, maybe a Travis Jones, and push Hall down. How's that position looking, and are you hearing anything about Ajabo? Because he's a guy that I think a lot of people are still very intrigued by.
Yeah, and obviously the Browns' defensive end situation is very much in flux right now. Jadeveon Clowney, there's a few other potential free agents out there where it's not like they absolutely have to get a pass rusher here to compete next year. I mean, they could go on the open market and find some of these guys, but how does that change their thinking in terms of a player that is ready to go from day one? Or maybe someone that needs a little bit of development or maybe a little bit of time to rehab, like a David Ajabo. In my mock draft, my second-round mock that's up on The Athletic right now, I've got Logan Hall going 33 to Tampa. I think they like him as a 3 technique. Also a guy like we talked about can play outside, but I think they like him inside. That would make a lot of sense. And then at 44, I've got the Browns taking Drake Jackson from USC, a player who – just since his freshman season at USC, came in as a big recruit, and he did not disappoint. He was a freshman All-American, and they kind of, I think, stunted his development a little bit with the weight loss and, the weight fluctuation and the way they used him. But this guy's got a lot of talent. He's a loose, twitchy athlete, strong hands. There's just a lot you could do with a Drake Jackson. So I like that fit if he's available at 44.
And then as we go down your draft into the third round, you have Alec Pierce in the third round at receiver. Z, a big fan of him as well. What do you like about his game? Why the fit?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to bet on, receivers, give me the guys that, have some of the testing that you want to see, some really, distinguishable traits that you can attach yourself to and say, okay, that's what I know we can add to our offense, and, he's going to help us. And so, like, a guy like Alec Pierce has the straight line speed, and he's got really the high pointing skills, the leaping skills. He can make plays over defensive backs. He did it routinely on a Cincinnati tape, 6'3", 210, ran the 4.41 at the combine, jumped over 40 inches in the vert. The routes are a work in progress. He's not the most polished route runner, and it's something that he needs to continue to develop. But he has this catch radius that is going to really help the quarterback. And he's a guy that can help you on special teams. He's got some linebacker experience in his background. He's been a gunner on special teams, on punt coverage. So there's just a lot to like about Alec Pierce, and the athlete, the player that he is still growing into, and I think it'd be a great fit for what the Browns are looking for, specifically in that mid-round 3 range.
Who is the person that's still on the board that you are the most surprised about, just in the league in general, based on kind of what you had heard going into the draft?
I don't see. I mean, like Andrew Booth, there's some injury stuff there, so maybe not a huge shock that Andrew Booth is still there. He had the groin strain, the double hernia surgery. We have no testing for him, and so not a huge surprise that Andrew Booth is still out there. Nakobe Dean, kind of the same thing. I've heard some injury things with him, a knee, a pec, and he's a smaller linebacker to begin with. So. I think Nakobe Dean's going to go pretty quickly, tonight, in somewhere in round 2. But there are some injury things that I know were a sticking point. I was not the biggest. I mean, Twitter loves Malik Willis more than NFL teams do. I mean,
clearly,
we've been saying that throughout the process.
Yeah,
but still a little surprising that Malik Willis did not go in the first 32 picks. And we hear so much about that 5th-year option, and I'll be honest, that 5th-year option when it comes to quarterbacks. It's a little overrated. It can be a detriment at times.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to bring up the Baker Mayfield situation, but we've seen it in a few places where that 5th-year option can kind of work against you because it's not a cheap option. It's a lot of money we're talking about. So I don't think that 5th year is as appealing to that quarterback as a lot of fans think it is. And we saw that play out last night. Where only one quarterback going, and it was the first time since 1997 we didn't have a single quarterback in the first 19 picks. So really fascinating with the quarterbacks. But I even though Malik Willis was not a first-round pick, was being very overrated on Twitter. Still a little surprised that not one team thought, okay, let's take a gamble here in the late first round.
Dane, you keep an eye on what the opposition is doing in Pittsburgh, certainly among that. What did you make of Pickett as a prospect? And I was alarmed a little bit. Well, it's good for us. But when I heard Tomlin say he had the lowest floor, that seems like a red flag to me. What did you make of Pickett for the Steelers at 20?
Yeah, and this is the conversation I had with Robert Mays and Nate Tice during our show last night. Was okay if you're the Browns, if you're the Ravens, this you? Because really, it doesn't. And I like Kenny Pickett. He's a good player. If I need to win a football game tomorrow, I think he can help me do that. But I don't think this is a situation where you're bringing a ringer into the division who's all of a sudden going to strike fear into defenses around the AFC North. It's just he's not that type of player. Now he's a good player. If he turns out to have a Kirk Cousins like career, that's maybe best case scenario for him. Which Kirk Cousins is a guy that can lead his team to the playoffs any given year. So Kenny Pickett has that type of potential, but it is a little surprising that they went that direction. It's going to be an open competition with him and Trubisky in training camp, and we'll see how that plays out. But obviously with him playing in Pitt, playing in Heinz Field, there's a lot of familiarity there. Pickett was the direction I had the Steelers going in my mock draft. That's what I kept hearing. But still, when it happened, it was a little surprising to see it play out the way it did.
There was a lot of talk kind of coming into this draft, and just really curious, real quickly on Pickett. Like, where would he have been in last year's draft class for you?
Competing with Davis Mills for the 6th quarterback. He would not have been above any of the top 5, the 5 guys that went in the first 15 picks. And then I was a big fan of Davis Mills out of Stanford. I thought he was going to be an NFL starter. I think probably would have had Kenny Pickett just ahead of Mills. So in between Mac Jones and Davis Mills as a prospect. And it's funny how that works from one year to the next. And this year's top 20 pick, and any other given year, probably a 2nd rounder.
You mentioned Baker earlier, and I think everybody's watching to see if something happens today or if it ends up happening tomorrow. If it's going to happen during the draft, obviously those are the 2 days for it. But, we were starting to hear a lot of chatter coming up to the draft that Baker Mayfield is by far the most talented quarterback available to a football team this year. And I'm guessing from what you just said, that makes a lot of sense that is obviously true. Not only have we seen him play at a high level in the NFL, but that this class isn't great. And it's why a Mitch Trubisky got the deal he did. It's why a Marcus Mariota got the deal that he did to come into some of those teams. How do you kind of see, maybe not necessarily that playing out, but, from an evaluation standpoint, is that something that you have heard as well? And do you think that, perhaps this weekend that's when somebody says, okay, all right, we've gone through here. We didn't take the quarterback at 6. I mean, if Carolina and Atlanta are not taking quarterbacks, that they're in Seattle, that they don't love the quarterbacks.
Right, and it'll be interesting with Tennessee picking at 35 tonight pretty quickly. We could see them go quarterback. Seattle back-to-back, 40 and 41. Indianapolis at 42. Atlanta, 43. There's a lot of these teams in the first 10 to 15 picks that could realistically go quarterback. And if they don't, what's that say? And it'll be interesting with Carolina. They don't pick until the 4th round. And so what does Carolina do? We have next year's draft. They could trade a future conditional, pick in next year's draft for a Baker Mayfield if they want to go that direction. Do they try to get back up into the 2nd round for, a Sam Howell, who I know they like, but it's just hard when they don't have that draft capital and they don't pick again until 137. So Carolina's in a weird spot right now where, Sam Darnold's already there. Is it worth giving up a conditional pick next year? I think the big thing Browns fans maybe need to brace themselves for, the return's probably not going to be what they want it to be. And that's just because the leverage isn't there. There's only so many spots for Baker to end up. And if it really puts the Browns decision makers in a bind in terms of, okay, do we just hold on to him and see what happens in terms of injuries around the league and camp? I don't think Baker Mayfield's going to be coming to Browns training camp, but is it something we just kind of hold out and wait? Or do we strike while iron's hot and take the best offer we get this weekend, which might be a 4th round pick? So I think there's a lot of moving parts here with Baker and different possibilities that could play out. A lot of rumors going around down here, but it'll be interesting to see the next 2 days if Mayfield's on the move or not.
You're the best, Dane. Thanks for your time, bud.
Elite.
All right. Enjoy tonight, guys.
Always do. The great Dane Brugler with The Athletic. A lot of bad advice out there about gambling, from secret methods to picking lottery numbers to betting big when you're on a roll. The miss can lose you money and get you in a lot of trouble. So before you wager, find out what's real and what isn't at keepitfunohio.com. Still so much more to come. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Sure to catch all the action at day 2 of the draft tonight at 7. Browns Draft Show presented by Bud Light. Ken Z, Jim Donovan, The Hoff. Interviews with the picks. University Hospitals, Cleveland Browns Radio Network. Next level next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.